I think Bono said at one point in time, Lypton Village, is that where we come from? And we all started cracking up laughing and said yes.
When we were in Dublin in the late 70s, there was massive unemployment, there was repression, there was, the Catholic Church had a very strong grasp on morals. I mean, not only was homosexuality illegal, but condoms and contraception was illegal. It was a very grim, grey city, and we were fighting against that.
How?
By telling them to fuck off. I mean, the Virgin Prunes were a very angry band. We were fighting by bashing against religious sort of suffocation. We were expressing our sexuality. We were trying to break down barriers. I don't know how exactly, it wasn't planned out, but we were angry young men, and we screamed, and then the country rejected us. Well, I grew up north side Dublin, an area called Ballymun. The country was very isolated, economically and socially. To me, as a young kid, it felt like I was in this prison. And then I met up with some very important people in my life, my closest friends, Guggi, who was in the Virgin Prunes, and Bono, who is now in U2. Now, Cedarwood Road was where me, Guggi and Bono lived. I came from a very strict Catholic background, and I had a very strict father. Guggi came from a Plymouth Brethren background, which is like a fundamentalist, almost Quaker Protestant. I'm sure you have a few in Holland. And Bono came from a mixed background, Catholic and Protestant. But we had one thing in common: very, very, very strict fathers. And fathers in the time then, at a time when you go, you're an asshole, you're a failure, you're a failure. So you were being told by your father you were a failure, and then you were being told by your school you're a failure. And there was this incredible sort of like, at the same time, it was the first generation that really was going, fuck the church, fuck the government.
I mean, I guess, we would have felt in some way like outcasts then. We wouldn't have been really accepted, and we realized that because our interests were so different to the average kid. And then at some point in time we realized, wow, this is us. We don't actually want to be accepted. We seemed to have this license to be ourselves, whatever that meant, or however strange that might have seemed. And it was that understanding and that license to express ourselves freely that the term Lypton Village is what we used to just coin that.
When we were little boys living on Cedarwood Road, and they started building these skyscrapers, we thought they were, but they were flats, and I don't know, the image in our heads was that Manhattan had arrived to Dublin, and yeah, no, like in the 70s and the 80s, with the sort of mass unemployment and mass emigration, these places were just let rot. There was no amenities, there was no shops, no chemists, nothing, and you know, then there was a heroin epidemic, and it just became hell, actually. And as teenagers then, what we thought was some great American/socialist dream turned into a living nightmare. And it became a very big, poignant thing in that we want to get out of here. This was like, it was a real, like, something to kick against again, just something to get away from. And a lot of people today just talk about the modern Ireland, or the mystical Ireland, you know, the poetic Ireland, the James Joyce Ireland, or the new Ireland, which is sort of like, you know, the fastest growing economy in Europe and blah blah blah. But they don't talk about like where it came from and all of that. And this is sort of the roots, my roots area. I and my friends in Lypton Village did not want to play football. We did not want to be in the civil service. We did not want to be hanging around the shops, drinking cider. We did not want. So, and we felt rejected, and we wanted to be rejected from that society at the time. And we would come to places like this, where most people would say, look at the fucking queers, the puffs going out to the Botanic Gardens. It was like a refuge, a haven, you know. I always wanted something more beautiful, and maybe this was some sort of subliminal seed that was set.
Very early on in our friendship as kids, you know, verbally speaking, the way we saw things and the way we described things, we had this idea of finding a word that sounds the way somebody looks. So to try and capture the way somebody looks physically by the sound of a word. In fact, that's how we got our names. Guggi is mine, and that came from the fact that word in some way described my physical likeness. Gavin is a very square word. You probably notice he's got a very square head. And Bono, an edge. Lypton Village was, you know, how we coined it when we were teenagers and in our 20s. Do we still refer to our friendship as Lypton Village? No, we don't.
Under white clouds, a picture on the wall, it says it all, it says it all. I think if you two were not as successful, and if I didn't go and do other stuff, or if Guggi is a very successful painter at the moment, people wouldn't give a fuck about Lypton Village. Because we've all gone into different careers, the myth has become magical. Home is where the heart is. Home